Listen to that. Just listen. What are you hearing? Vibrations, air molecules hitting your eardrum, patterns of sound. Now watch what your brain does with it. Your brain just took meaningless vibrations and turned them into everything. Identity, wound, joy, prison, freedom. People are making sounds. You are making up meanings. 10 years ago, someone said 6 words to me. Just 6 words. Sounds that lasted maybe 3 seconds. And I carried those sounds for a decade, replayed them, built a story around them, let them shape how I saw myself. They were just sounds, but I made them mean something about who I was, and that meaning became my reality. Today, I want to show you how you're doing this right now. How the ego uses language to build prisons you didn't even know you were living in. And how seeing through this, really seeing it, can free you from conversations that happened years ago. Here's what actually happens when someone speaks to you. Their vocal cords vibrate, air molecules compress and expand, sound waves travel to your eardrum vibrates, neurons fire, electrical signals travel through your brain, and then, somewhere in that process, your brain does something extraordinary and completely automatic. It assigns meaning. Not just, this sound pattern means dog. That's language. That's useful. That's how we communicate. I'm talking about the other layer. The layer where you hear someone say, "That's interesting," and your brain instantly, unconsciously decides, what does this mean about me? Let me give you a real example from my life. Years ago, I was in a meeting, presenting an idea I'd worked on for weeks, thought it was brilliant. I finish, and there's this moment of silence, and then someone says, that's different. Just those 3 words, 3 sounds. That's different. And watch what my mind did with it. Different equals not normal. Not normal equals weird. Weird equals bad. Bad equals I failed equals I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough equals I shouldn't have spoken up. I shouldn't have spoken up equals I need to hide. All of that. From 3 sounds. In less than a second. The person who said it? They probably forgot it 30 seconds later. They might have genuinely meant, that's a fresh perspective. Or they were distracted, thinking about lunch, and just said words to fill the silence. But I spent the next week replaying those sounds, assigning meaning, building a story, feeling inadequate. And here's the thing, this is happening all the time. Someone says, "You've changed," just sounds. But your ego decides, is that good or bad? Are they disappointed? Am I failing? Should I defend myself? Someone says, "I'm fine," just sounds. But your mind reads tone, history, context, and decides, they're lying, they're angry, I did something wrong. Someone says nothing. Literally silence. And your ego fills that silence with 1,000 meanings. They don't care. They're judging me. I'm not important enough to respond to. The sounds are neutral. The meaning is yours. And the suffering, the anxiety, the replaying conversations at 3 a.m., that's not coming from what they said. It's coming from what you decided it meant. Now, some of you have seen my video about the prophecy. The palmist who told me, "You will struggle financially," and how those 4 words programmed my subconscious for 20 years. Let me show you what was really happening there. Because it's the same mechanism, just more obvious. He made sounds, vibrations in air. You will struggle financially. Those sounds had no inherent power. They weren't magic spells. They weren't cosmic truth being downloaded. They were just an old man moving his mouth. But I gave them meaning, not consciously. I didn't walk away thinking, I believe that. I actually laughed it off. But somewhere deeper, in that subconscious space where meanings get assigned and stored, my mind decided, this means something about my future. This is true. And once the meaning was assigned, my entire reality reorganized around it. See, here's what the ego does with language. It takes sounds and turns them into identity statements. You will struggle financially becomes, I am someone who struggles financially. You're too sensitive becomes, I am too sensitive. You'll never change becomes, I am unchangeable. I want you to think about something right now. What's a phrase someone said to you, maybe years ago, maybe recently, that you're still carrying? Maybe a parent said, you're just like your father, and you've been trying to prove them wrong ever since. Maybe a partner said, you're not affectionate enough, and now you second-guess every interaction. Maybe a teacher said, you're not a math person, and you've avoided numbers for decades. They made sounds. You made them mean something about who you are. And you've been living inside that meaning ever since. But here's the question that changes everything. What if they were just wrong? Not even wrong. What if the sounds they made had nothing to do with some cosmic truth about you, and everything to do with their mood that day, their own wounds, their limited perspective, the fact that they were human and flawed and just making mouth noises? What if you've been carrying a life sentence based on sounds that weren't even about you? Here's where it gets really interesting and uncomfortable. Because it's not just other people's words, it's your own. The ego doesn't just assign meaning to external sounds. It creates an entire internal dialogue, a constant stream of sounds in your head, and then pretends those sounds are true. I'm not good enough. Just sounds your mind is making. I'm behind. Sounds. Everyone else has it figured out. Sounds. I should be further along by now. Sounds. And the cruelest part? You don't even question them, because they're in your voice. They feel like thoughts, like observations, like reality. But they're just sounds. Internal sounds. Your ego narrating a story and then believing the narration is you. I catch myself doing this all the time. I'll see someone younger than me achieving something I once wanted, and immediately there's this voice. You're too late. You missed your window. What have you been doing all these years? Just sounds. Just my ego creating a narrative. But if I'm not aware, if I don't catch it, those sounds become my experience. I walk around feeling behind, feeling inadequate, feeling like I failed. Not because of any objective reality, because of sounds I'm making up and believing. Think about the conversation you're having with yourself right now, even as you're watching this. Is he talking about me? Am I doing this? Should I be doing something differently? Sounds, stories, meanings being assigned in real time. Here's a thought experiment. Imagine someone cancels plans with you. They text, "Sorry, can't make it tonight." Story 1. They don't value me. I'm not a priority. I'm always the one getting canceled on. Nobody really wants to spend time with me. Story 2. They're probably overwhelmed. Life gets busy. We'll reschedule. No big deal. Same sounds, same text. Two completely different realities. Which one is true? Neither. Both. The sounds are neutral. The meaning is yours. And whichever meaning you choose, unconsciously or consciously, becomes your experience. So what do we do with this? How do we live in a world made of language without becoming prisoners of meaning? Buddhism has a teaching called shunyata, emptiness. Not emptiness as in nothing matters, but emptiness as in things don't have inherent fixed meaning. They're empty of the meanings we project onto them. Words are empty until you fill them with meaning. There's a Zen story about a monk who was insulted by a stranger. The stranger called him lazy, worthless, a fraud. The monk just smiled and said, "Thank you for the gift." The stranger was confused. "What gift? I insulted you." And the monk replied, "You offered me words, but I didn't accept them, so they remain yours. You offered me words, but I didn't accept them. This isn't about toxic positivity or pretending words don't hurt. They do. Because we're human. We're wired for connection, for language, for meaning-making. But there's a difference between feeling the impact of words and accepting them as truth about who you are. When someone says something hurtful, you can feel it. You can acknowledge. That stung. That touched a wound. But you don't have to make it mean, therefore what they said is true. Therefore, I am what they said I am. The practice isn't to become immune to language. It's to become aware of the gap between the sounds and the meaning. Someone says, "You're not enough." Notice the sound. Notice the automatic meaning your mind wants to assign. Notice that you have a choice in this moment. You can accept the meaning, or you can let it pass through. Here's what I've been practicing. When I catch myself replaying a conversation, obsessing over what someone meant, building a story around their words, I ask, am I reacting to what they said or to what I decided it meant? And then, what if I chose a different meaning or no meaning at all? Someone says, "That's interesting," and instead of spiraling into, "They think I'm stupid," I just let it be interesting, neutral, a sound they made. Someone says, "You've changed," and instead of defending myself or feeling attacked, I get curious. Changed how? Is that bad? Says who? Someone says nothing. Silence. And instead of filling it with paranoid meanings, I let silence be silence. This is freedom. Not freedom from language. Freedom within language. You still communicate. You still listen. You still care what people say. But you're no longer enslaved by the meanings your ego automatically assigns. You become the awareness that hears the sounds, notices the meaning-making machinery, and chooses consciously instead of reacting unconsciously. So here's what you can actually do with this. Not as theory, but as practice. Practice 1. Catch the replay. Notice when you're replaying a conversation, when you're obsessing over what someone said or didn't say, and ask, what meaning did I assign to those sounds? Is that meaning objectively true, or is it a story my ego created? Just asking the question loosens the grip. Practice 2. Rewrite the meaning. Take a phrase that's been haunting you, something someone said that you've been carrying. Write it down. Then write 3 different meanings it could have had. 3 different interpretations. Not to gaslight yourself, but to see. The meaning isn't fixed. It never was. Practice 3. Listen to sounds as sounds. This is advanced, but powerful. Next conversation you have, just for a minute, try to hear the other person's words as pure sound. Vibrations, music, not meaning. You'll notice how hard your brain works to instantly assign meaning, how automatic it is. And in noticing, you create space. Space to choose. I'm not perfect at this. I still get hooked. Still replay conversations. Still let sounds become weapons against myself. But more and more, I catch it. And in catching it, I'm free. Free from the prophecy spoken 20 years ago. Free from the criticism spoken last week. Free from the story I'm telling myself right now. Because here's the deepest truth. You are not the sounds. You are not the meanings. You are the awareness that hears both and remains untouched. The sounds come and go. The meanings arise and dissolve. But you, the witness, the consciousness, the presence, you remain. So let me ask you something. What sounds are you still carrying? What did someone say 10 years ago, 10 days ago, 10 minutes ago, that you're letting define you? And what would happen if you remembered they just made sounds? You made them mean something. And you can unmake that meaning anytime you choose. This isn't about dismissing real hurt or pretending words don't matter. They do. But you get to decide what they mean. You get to decide what you carry. You get to decide who you are. Not based on sounds other people made. Not based on sounds your ego is making. Based on the truth of what you actually are beneath all the noise. Drop a comment and tell me, what's a phrase you've been carrying that you're ready to let go of? Let's bring it into the light together. And if this resonated, share it. Because we're all walking around with sounds in our heads pretending they're truth. It's time to wake up. Thank you for being here. Until next time, remember, they're making sounds, you're making meanings. Choose wisely.